The snow fell thick and silent over Maple Hollow, muting the distant hum of Christmas cheer. Streetlights flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward the lonely figures trudging home. From somewhere deep in the forest, a faint scream echoed, sharp, hollow, like metal scraping against bone. Martha slowed, tightening her scarf, staring into the darkness where the tree lane met the edge of town. There was nothing there, yet the scream lingered in her chest, a clawing feeling she couldn't shake. A single ornament, cracked and blackened, lay abandoned in the middle of the snow-covered road. Its reflective surface caught the weak lamplight and seemed to show her own face, twisted in silent terror. Her breath fogged in the cold, mingling with the whisper of wind that carried a voice she didn't recognize. "Don't look behind you," it hissed, soft enough to be mistaken for the wind, but deliberate. Her heart hammered. Every house she passed was dark, doors locked, curtains drawn. Yet from one upstairs window a candle flickered, though the house had been empty for years. The flame bent unnaturally, like it was alive, moving closer to the glass. Martha's boots sank into the snow. She wanted to run, but her legs felt leaden. Something watched. Something waited. And that scream, now closer, was calling her name. Martha's boots crunched over the thickening snow as she hurried along the empty street. The town of Maple Hollow usually glowed with Christmas lights, children laughing as they ran from door to door, and the faint smell of pine mingling with fresh-baked cookies. Tonight, though, the glow felt muted, as if the lights themselves were afraid. Even the church bell had fallen silent. Her breath came in ragged clouds, the cold biting through her gloves. She passed the old bakery, its windows dark and coated in frost. She should have felt relief at the familiar sight, but instead a shiver ran down her spine. Inside, the counter was dusted with snow-like powder. There was a single handprint smeared across it, small, almost childlike, yet impossibly pale against the darkness. She froze. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice cracking. No answer. Only the distant, brittle whisper of the wind through the bare branches. She wanted to convince herself it was nothing, just her imagination running wild in the quiet of a small town. But something about the way the shadows seemed to shift, subtly, unnaturally, made her stomach twist. As she walked on, her memories of previous Christmases flashed, haunting in their innocence. She remembered last year's party in the town hall, the laughter of neighbors around the tree, the moment the lights flickered and went out. Briefly, yes, but enough to see faces freeze in silent fear. At the time, she had laughed it off. Now she realized laughter had been her shield, one that felt hollow tonight. Turning onto Elm Street, she noticed the old Parker house at the corner. Long abandoned, its windows boarded, it had always seemed like a relic, a harmless monument to decay. But tonight, a faint glow pulsed inside, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. She squinted. The snow on the roof seemed to shift in waves, as if something beneath it stirred. Martha shook her head, telling herself she was seeing things. She should go home, lock her door, and wait until morning. But curiosity tugged at her, an insistent gnawing need to understand why the town felt wrong. She approached the house, each step muffled in snow, the silence stretching unbearably. The glow inside flickered again, revealing a silhouette. Tall, thin, impossibly still. Martha's heart pounded so loud she was certain the figure could hear it. And then it moved. Not toward her, not away, but sideways, gliding along the wall in a motion no human could replicate. Martha's voice was barely a whisper. "Who are you?" The figure paused. There was a sound, soft but unmistakable, like a child laughing, then choking. Suddenly, the silhouette was gone, as if it had never been there. Martha's relief was instant but fleeting, replaced by the heavy, oppressive knowledge that something had been watching her. Her pulse raced, thoughts colliding. Was it a prank? Some townsfolk hiding in the old house for a laugh? But why did her instincts scream danger? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her neighbor, Karen. "Don't leave the house tonight. Stay inside. Please." Martha's hand shook as she stared at the screen. No explanation. Just that. No name, no warning of why. Just the command. A sudden creak behind her made her spin. The street was empty, snow untouched, yet footprints, too large to be hers, crossed the path where she had walked. They didn't belong to anyone she knew. The prints led to the Parker house. A voice whispered impossibly close, and she stumbled back, fumbling with her scarf. It's too late. Her stomach turned. The wind had picked up, carrying the scent of burning pine. A door slammed somewhere down the street, though all houses were locked. The snow fell heavier, muffling every sound except for the faint, persistent echo of something following her steps. Her mind raced. Memories, half-formed and fragmented, flickered like shadows in her brain. A neighbor's tale of the Parker family disappearing decades ago on Christmas Eve. A child's drawing found in the library depicting a dark figure with empty eyes. The old caretaker at the cemetery warning, "The town isn't as empty as you think, Martha. Not tonight." She wanted to believe the fear was her imagination. But then the snow beneath her boots shifted. Not with wind or weight, but as if something was breathing under it. She froze, chest tightening. And then she saw it, a small red mitten lying in the snow, perfectly clean, untouched by the storm, moving slowly, inch by inch, toward her. Her scream caught in her throat as realization struck. Whatever had followed her, whatever had been watching, wasn't just in the shadows. It was here, waiting. And she had walked straight into it. Martha stumbled backward, her eyes fixed on the red mitten inching through the snow. The mitten seemed almost alive, quivering as if it carried a pulse of its own. She wanted to run, but the cold had frozen her limbs into lead. Her mind raced, her rational thoughts colliding with instinctual terror. This isn't real. It can't be real. But something in the silence screamed otherwise. The street stretched on endlessly, snow thickening with every breath. Streetlights flickered overhead, their weak illumination throwing warped shadows that danced and twisted in unnatural shapes. A shadow detached itself from a nearby house, stretching long and skeletal across the snow. Martha froze. The shadow didn't belong to any object or person she could see. It moved independently, like a predator stalking her every step. She tried to remember the stories her grandmother had whispered to her as a child. Tales of Christmas Eve in Maple Hollow, of children disappearing in the snow, of townsfolk seeing figures that vanished as soon as they tried to call for help. Martha's chest tightened. Those stories weren't just bedtime tales. They were warnings. A voice called from the darkness, brittle and urgent. "Martha! Martha, listen." She spun, heart pounding, searching the shadows. A man emerged from between two buildings, hunched, coat soaked in snow. His face was lined, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and something else, urgency or perhaps madness. You shouldn't be out here," he said, voice shaking. "Tonight, it comes." "What comes?" Martha asked, her voice barely audible, frost clinging to her lips. "The hollow, it wakes. Every year. On Christmas Eve. And it chooses." He swallowed, looking over his shoulder. "The Parker family. They were the first. They didn't leave, and neither will anyone else if it finds you." Martha's mind spun. The Parker house. The glow. The mitten. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. The man shivered violently. "It's not a person. Not alive, not dead. Something older. Something that feeds on fear. It watches. It waits. And it doesn't forget." A gust of wind howled down the street, carrying with it a faint, choking laughter. Martha's stomach churned. The man's eyes darted to the sound. "Run. Stay inside. Lock doors. Hide. It doesn't like to be ignored, but it hunts those who see it." Before she could respond, the man was gone, swallowed by the darkness like he had never existed. Snow filled the space where he had stood, undisturbed, leaving Martha alone again. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she tried to reconcile the impossible with reality. She took a hesitant step forward toward the Parker house. The snow beneath her boots felt heavier now, almost resisting her movement. Her eyes were drawn back to the window where the candle had flickered, then extinguished. A faint scratching sound began from inside, slow and deliberate, as if someone, or something, was moving behind the boards. Martha's fingers grazed the doorknob, icy and unwelcoming. The door creaked open with a protest, revealing a pitch-black interior. The air smelled of damp wood and something fouled, rotten beneath the snow's purity. Her flashlight flickered on, casting a weak beam that barely penetrated the darkness. The room was empty, but the furniture seemed arranged with intent. Chairs faced the walls, tables set as though an invisible family had gathered for a meal. A small child's drawing lay on the floor, a figure with empty eyes and a gaping mouth, holding hands with other figures that seemed to sway, their lines trembling as if alive. Martha shivered. She recognized the style. It was exactly like the drawings her neighbor Karen had shown her last week, drawings supposedly left by children who no longer lived in the town. A sudden movement near the fireplace made her spin. Nothing. Only shadows. And then a whisper, almost imperceptible. "Go, go." Martha's chest tightened. The whispers multiplied, faintly at first, then louder, overlapping, urgent. Voices from the past. Children crying, women calling, men shouting, all carried by the wind. Every story she had ever heard of Maple Hollow's Christmas Eve tragedies seemed to speak directly to her. Her flashlight flickered again, and in that brief darkness she saw them. Footprints in the dust, trailing toward her in the room, but no one present. They were small, child-sized, but interspersed with larger prints, impossible in proportion. And then the mitten appeared, this time inside the room, moving as if drawn by an invisible hand. Martha backed away, heart hammering. She stumbled over a chair, falling hard onto the floor. A mirror caught her reflection, and for a moment she didn't see herself. Instead, a pale, hollow-eyed face stared back, lips moving in silent screaming. She screamed herself, voice shattering the heavy silence. A memory hit her then, sudden and vivid, a story her grandmother told her years ago. About the Parker family, how they had been found years later, not dead, not alive, trapped between reality and something else. How each Christmas Eve, one could hear them wandering the snow, calling for someone to see them, to join them. The room grew colder. Frost formed on the windows inside the house, spreading like a living thing. The whispers grew louder, almost intelligible now. "It sees you. You're next. You can't leave." Martha stumbled to her feet, fighting the terror clawing at her mind. She had to leave to escape, but the door had vanished, or was it never there? The walls seemed to ripple, folding inwards, elongating the room unnaturally. Her sense of direction failed her entirely. Every hallway led back to the same central space. The drawing, the fireplace, the empty chairs. Time itself seemed fractured. Minutes stretched to hours. Snow fell outside, piling against windows that shouldn't have existed. Her flashlight flickered, revealing glimpses of figures in corners, shadows that twisted into faces she recognized. Neighbors, children, friends long gone. They were staring, reaching, whispering her name. A chilling realization gripped her. The stories, the warnings, the mittens, they were markers. Each Christmas Eve, the hollow collected its toll, leaving behind footprints in the snow, traces of fear. Those who saw it, like her, became part of its ritual. Its hunger was inexorable, its patience infinite. She tried to speak, to call for help, but her voice was stolen. In its place, the whispers answered. "Why do you resist?" A flash of memory, the caretaker from the cemetery decades ago, warning townsfolk. "Do not look. Do not hear. Do not follow. The hollow takes those who linger." Martha realized, with terror that rooted her to the spot, that she had lingered. She had looked, she had listened, she had followed curiosity into the darkness. And now the hollow was aware of her. The room shifted again. Figures closed in, the walls bending like paper. A faint, horrible glow emanated from the floorboards, the same red as the mitten, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the wood. Something rose from it, shapeless at first, then forming. A tall figure, thin and pale, eyes hollow, hands extended as if to embrace her. Martha's rational mind fought, screaming that this was impossible, that she must be hallucinating. But every instinct screamed otherwise. She could feel its cold breath, sensed the hunger radiating from it. The whispers coalesced into a single phrase, terrifyingly clear. "Stay with us. Forever." Her heart hammered, terror consuming every thought. She ran, though she didn't know where, the room looping endlessly, doors appearing and vanishing. The snow outside called to her, promising freedom, but each step toward it brought her back inside the house. In a brief moment of clarity, she remembered Karen's warning. Don't leave the house tonight. Stay inside. Please. But that warning was useless now. She was already inside the hollow itself, inside the inevitable. The whispers grew deafening, filling every crevice of her mind, every thought consumed by the insistent, inescapable presence. The figures closed in, their hands brushing her shoulders, their eyes boring into her soul. The red mitten hovered in front of her, and she understood fully. The hollow had chosen her. Her scream was swallowed by the darkness. Martha's legs ached, lungs burning, yet she could not stop. The room, or what she had thought was a room, stretched endlessly, walls folding in impossible angles. Her flashlight flickered, failing completely, plunging her into darkness so thick it felt tangible, pressing against her skin. The whispers had become screams, overlapping, chaotic, tearing at her mind. You belong. You cannot leave. Stay with us. Every step she took echoed unnaturally, multiplied, bouncing off unseen surfaces. The red mitten floated ahead, pulsating, hovering at eye level. A thin, skeletal hand emerged from it, long fingers twitching as if beckoning her forward. She stumbled, catching herself on a warped wall. Shadows detached themselves from corners, twisting and writhing. Figures appeared, neighbors, friends, children, but distorted, elongated, faces stretched into expressions of anguish and hunger. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. They whispered her name over and over, as though chanting a spell. Stop! Leave me alone! She screamed, voice cracking. But the walls seemed to swallow her words, returning only a hollow echo. We will never leave you alone. A flash of movement drew her gaze upward. From the ceiling, figures hung upside down, faces pale and empty-eyed. One raised a hand and pointed at her, a finger unnaturally long, bending like liquid. She blinked, and it was gone, yet its finger lingered in her vision, suspended in midair. Martha's mind teetered. She realized the hollow wasn't just a place, not just the Parker house. It was everywhere now, a living nightmare consuming reality. Doors opened to infinite corridors, each filled with the screaming, reaching figures. Snow poured in from nowhere, accumulating beneath her feet like a tide of frost, cold gnawing at her bones. A whisper, low and deliberate, sounded right in her ear. Why do you fight? You've already chosen. Her stomach twisted. Memories assaulted her. Children disappearing under snowdrifts, families vanishing, townsfolk who had once laughed and sung now trapped in empty houses, frozen in fear. And now she understood. The hollow didn't just take lives. It absorbed them, twisted them, and used them to draw others in. Martha's flashlight flickered again, illuminating a figure before her. The Parker family, standing in a circle. Their eyes hollow, lips moving in silent chanting. The father's mouth opened, a whisper escaping. Join us. A shadow detached itself from the group, stretching impossibly, thinning and elongating into the form of a child. Smiling, yet with eyes black and empty. The child's hand extended toward her. She felt compelled to take it, a gravitational pull like none she had ever known. Her body resisted, but her mind screamed that resistance was useless. She turned, seeking an escape, but every exit led to the same center. The Parker family, the red mitten hovering, shadows reaching. Her hands shook violently, banging against walls that rippled under her touch. The whispers merged into one. You cannot leave. You cannot leave. Martha's thoughts raced. Panic and despair collided, her psyche fracturing. She remembered Karen's text, the caretaker's warning, her grandmother's stories. And the truth struck her with horrifying clarity. She was never meant to survive. The hollow did not forgive. It did not bargain. It devoured. She screamed, a sound that shattered the silence, and ran toward the faint glow at the far end of the distorted corridor. Figures lunged from walls, ceilings, floors, trying to grab her. Their hands were cold as ice, their grip intangible yet heavy with force. She stumbled, crashing into the red mitten, which pulsed violently, blinding her in crimson light. The world seemed to fracture around her. Time stretched and warped. Seconds elongated into minutes, minutes into eternity. Voices whispered from all directions, repeating fragments. We see you. You're ours. It is too late. Martha's chest heaved. She had no control, no anchor in reality. Every instinct screamed flight, yet she ran in place, trapped in an endless loop. Then, a single moment of clarity. A doorway, different from the others, emanating faint warm light. Her hand shot out, touching the frame. The warmth burned through her, a stark contrast to the pervasive cold. She pulled herself through, and found herself in the familiar street, snow falling softly, Maple Hollow quiet as if the night itself had reset. Her heart pounded in relief, lungs gasping for air. The houses were dark, doors locked, yet she was outside. Free, maybe. Then a laugh, soft and cruel, drifted from the Parker house. Martha froze. The red mitten lay at her feet, pulsing gently, almost breathing. She glanced back. One of the figures from inside pressed its face to the window, eyes hollow, lips curled in a smile. Her mind refused to accept it. She kicked the mitten into the snow, but it landed upright, fingers twitching toward her. A whisper rode the wind. Always. Next year. Next Christmas. Martha's legs carried her home, not daring to look back. Every house she passed seemed alive with unseen presence. Windows stared at her. Doors creaked. Snow swirled unnaturally around her boots. She tried to convince herself it was over, that she had escaped, but the hollow had marked her. She could feel it in her bones, in the heavy weight on her chest, in the relentless echo of those voices in her mind. Her front door never looked so welcoming. She slammed it shut, bolted it, and leaned against it, gasping. The warmth inside her house felt alien, as if the hollow had tainted it already. Shadows pooled in corners, whispering faintly. She turned on every light, every lamp, yet the darkness clung stubbornly to the edges of her vision. Then, a sound, soft, deliberate, coming from the fireplace. The red mitten slid out from the hearth, impossibly, as if it had teleported. It stopped at the center of the room, pulsing. A single, thin hand rose from it, pointing directly at Martha. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to flee, but the power of the hollow pressed down, forcing her to her knees. The whispers grew louder, merging into one coherent sentence. You will stay with us. Forever. Martha's vision blurred. Every memory of Christmas Eve, the laughter, the warmth, the comfort, was gone, replaced with the hollow's ceaseless hunger. She screamed, yet her voice was drowned by the echoes of the countless trapped souls who had come before her, all calling, all reaching. Her hands grasped the mitten instinctively. The red pulsed, almost inviting, almost alive. Her mind shattered further. She wanted to resist, to run, but her body moved against her will. The warmth of the mitten's fingers coiled around her wrist, icy and insistent. Everything went white. And then silence. Martha woke to a muted morning, the snow outside undisturbed, soft as a blanket over Maple Hollow. Sunlight filtered weakly through frost-laced windows, casting pale, ghostly patterns across the floor. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe she had survived. That last night had been a fevered dream, the terror a trick of isolation and imagination. She rose slowly, muscles stiff, mind fogged. The house was quiet, unnervingly quiet. Every sound she expected, the hum of heating, the distant bark of a dog, the creak of a floorboard, was absent. Only the faint whisper of wind against the walls reminded her she was still in the world of the living. Her gaze fell to the floor. The red mitten was gone. Relief bloomed briefly, but it was hollow. A subtle shift in the shadows caught her eye. They didn't move naturally. They stretched toward the corners of the room, pooling like dark water, clinging to edges where light should have banished them. Martha forced herself to stand upright, shaking off the creeping dread. She dressed, leaving every light on, every door locked behind her. Each step toward the kitchen echoed through the still house like a warning. And then she froze. Her phone vibrated. A text from Karen. Did you make it through the night? Martha's fingers trembled. She wanted to answer, but no words came. The screen flickered, and for a heartbeat, the display showed something else. Shadows forming shapes of hollow-eyed children, hands reaching, whispering her name. She dropped the phone, gasping. The image lingered in her mind longer than it should have, etched into memory. Outside, the town appeared normal. Snow glistened under a clear sky, houses and streets peaceful in a way that was almost cruel after the terror of last night. But Martha knew what she had felt, the weight of the hollow pressing, stalking, watching. It hadn't left her. It never would. She walked carefully to the window, peering out at the Parker house. Its windows were dark and empty again, as if nothing had ever happened. But the snow beneath its steps was perfectly clean, as if something unseen had walked there moments ago. She shivered. Somewhere inside, the hollow waited, patient, infinite. The day passed in a haze. Every sound was magnified, the scrape of a branch against the window, the tick of a clock, distant footsteps. Every shadow threatened to reach for her. Martha realized she could not leave her house, could not trust the streets she once called familiar. Maple Hollow had survived for centuries, and it did so by hiding its horror behind a mask of normalcy. Night fell again, and with it came the creeping dread of repetition. Martha could not sleep. Every moment was filled with the memory of last night, the red mitten, the whispering shadows, the faces of those trapped by the hollow. She thought of the Parker family, lost to something unnameable, their horror repeated in every winter, every Christmas Eve. A faint tapping came at her window. She froze. The sound was deliberate, measured, echoing her heartbeat. She turned, but nothing was there, only the darkness of the snow-draped yard. Yet she knew the hollow had returned. Its patience was infinite. It did not need doors to enter, nor windows. It existed everywhere, in every shadow, every reflection, every silent pause. Martha's reflection in the glass startled her. Her eyes, once wide with fear, were now hollowed, as if a piece of her had already been claimed. Her lips trembled. The whispers returned, faint at first, then louder, merging with the wind. Next year, next Christmas, you belong. She sank to the floor, hugging her knees. The snow fell silently outside, covering the world in a deceptive blanket of peace. But the terror was not gone. It would never leave. The hollow had marked her, stitched her into its ritual. Every year, every Christmas Eve, it would come for her again. And perhaps someday it would claim more. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had become meaningless. Martha stared at the fireplace, imagining the red mitten sliding out again, pulsing, beckoning. Shadows pooled in the corners, never leaving, and every creak of the house sounded like steps approaching. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. She did not pick it up. She knew already. The town had survived by ignoring what it could not understand. The hollow was patient, and now it was patient with her. Martha rose slowly, knowing she could not escape her fate. She moved to the window once more, peering into the snow-filled street. Everything appeared ordinary, but she felt it in her bones. The hollow's eyes on her, waiting for the moment she could not resist. The house was silent, yet alive. She lit every candle she had, filled the rooms with warmth and light, but it was futile. Shadows clung to every corner, whispering, moving. The red mitten had not returned yet, but she knew it would. She whispered to herself, voice trembling, "I survived. I survived." But the words felt empty. The memory of last night pressed against her mind, insistent and unforgiving. The hollow had not only seen her, it had marked her. And now she was part of its story, its ritual, its endless hunger. The snow continued to fall. Outside, Maple Hollow slept in deceptive peace, unaware. Inside, Martha waited, and the shadows waited with her. The red mitten, pulsing somewhere in the dark, was patient. Always patient. And in the silence, a whisper returned, soft, cruel, inevitable. "Next year, we will meet again." Martha closed her eyes. The night had not ended.